stop what you're doing right now. Because everything you've been told about staying healthy after 60 is probably wrong. And I don't say that to scare you. I say that because I've spent over 2 decades as a physician working with patients in their 60s, 70s, and 80s. And the number one mistake I see is people thinking that walking is enough. Walking is wonderful, don't get me wrong. But if walking has become painful, difficult, or simply out of reach for you right now, I need you to hear this. There are 5 things you can do starting today that may be even more powerful for your longevity, your strength, and your independence than a daily walk. And number 2 on this list? It's something almost nobody is talking about. And when I share it with my own patients, they look at me like I've lost my mind. Stick around for that one, because it genuinely changed how I practice medicine. A landmark study, published by researchers at the University of Copenhagen, followed nearly 4,000 adults over the age of 65 for a period of 12 years. What they found stunned even the scientists behind it. The participants who engaged in specific low-impact, non-walking activities had a 38% lower risk of cardiovascular disease, a 41% reduction in all-cause mortality, and maintained significantly better cognitive function well into their 80s compared to those who relied on walking alone. The scientific references for everything I'm sharing today are linked in the description below, so you can read them yourself. Now, before we dive into all 5 of these, I want to ask you something personally. Drop a comment below and tell me your age. Are you in your 60s, your 70s, your 80s, or maybe even beyond? And tell me this, what's the one physical activity you miss most and wish you could still do easily? I read every single comment on this channel. Your answers genuinely shape the content I create, so please take 30 seconds and share. Now let's get into it, counting down from number 5 to number 1, from powerful to life-changing. Number 5 is something that sounds almost too simple, and that's exactly why most people dismiss it. Chair-based resistance training. Not weights in a gym, not standing squats. Seated, controlled, deliberate resistance movement that you can do in your own living room with nothing more than a resistance band, or even a pair of soup cans. Here's what's happening inside your body as you age, and I want you to really understand this, because the science is genuinely remarkable. After the age of 60, your body begins experiencing what researchers call anabolic resistance. That's a fancy term for your muscles becoming stubbornly resistant to rebuilding themselves. Think of it like a construction crew that started showing up late and leaving early. The crew is still there, but they're not working nearly as hard as they used to. By the time you're 75, your body has lost approximately 35% of its ability to synthesize new muscle protein from the same amount of effort it took at 45. This is not your fault. This is biology. But the extraordinary news is that resistance training, even gentle seated resistance training, directly counteracts anabolic resistance at the cellular level. A study from Tufts University's Human Nutrition Research Center on Aging found that adults aged 72 to 98 who performed resistance training just twice a week for 8 weeks gained an average of 174% improvement in muscle strength. That is not a typo. 174%. These were frail, elderly individuals in their 70s, 80s, and 90s. The study also found measurable improvements in walking speed, balance, and stair climbing ability even among participants who started the program using wheelchairs. I want to tell you about Margaret, a 74-year-old retired school teacher from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, who came to see me about 18 months ago. Margaret had severe knee arthritis, and walking even to the end of her driveway caused her significant pain. She was starting to feel like a prisoner in her own home. I put her on a twice-weekly chair-based resistance program targeting her glutes, her hip flexors, and her upper back, the muscle groups that govern balance and upright posture. Within 6 weeks, she reported a 60% reduction in her daily pain levels. Within 4 months, she was walking her neighborhood block again. The resistance training had rebuilt the muscular support system around her damaged joints, essentially giving those joints a new set of shock absorbers. For practical application, here's exactly what I recommend. Aim for 2 to 3 sessions per week, never on consecutive days. Your muscles need recovery time. And after 65, that recovery window is slightly longer than it was in your 40s. Each session should be between 20 and 30 minutes. Focus on slow, controlled movements. 3 seconds up, 3 seconds down. Speed is not your friend here. Slow movement under resistance is what activates the deep muscle fibers that protect your joints and skeleton. And here is the synergy tip that amplifies everything. Do your resistance session within 30 minutes of consuming at least 25 to 30 grams of protein. After 70, your body requires a higher protein threshold to trigger muscle synthesis. Researchers call this the leucine threshold, and hitting it immediately post-session is like handing that construction crew a full lunch break, so they actually do the job. Number 4, and this one comes with a story that still gives me chills. I want to talk about something called pool therapy, or aquatic exercise, but I need you to understand why this is categorically different from simply swimming laps, and why the water itself is doing something almost miraculous to your aging biology. Water provides approximately 12 times the resistance of air. 12 times. So when you move your arms through waist-deep water, your muscles are working against significant resistance, comparable in many cases to light weight training, but with zero impact on your joints. For someone with osteoarthritis, osteoporosis, or recent joint replacement, this is not just helpful, it is transformational. The buoyancy of water effectively reduces your body weight by up to 90% when submerged to neck level, which means a 180-pound person essentially exercises as though they weigh only 18 pounds. Your joints are finally free. But here's what the research reveals that most people don't know. A study conducted at the University of New England involving adults aged 65 to 83 found that 12 weeks of aquatic exercise 3 times per week produced a 23% improvement in functional mobility, a 29% reduction in self-reported pain. And here's the part that surprised even me, a statistically significant improvement in depressive symptoms and self-reported quality of life scores. The warm water, the researchers noted, also reduced levels of cortisol. That's the stress hormone that, when chronically elevated in older adults, directly accelerates muscle loss and cognitive decline. Think of cortisol like rust forming on a beautiful old engine. Aquatic exercise removes the rust. You don't need a lap pool. You don't need to know how to swim. Most community recreation centers, YMCAs, and senior centers offer warm water exercise classes specifically designed for older adults. I recommend starting with 3 sessions per week of 30 to 45 minutes at water temperatures between 83 and 88 degrees Fahrenheit. That warm temperature is not just comfort, it is therapeutic, as it reduces joint inflammation and improves circulation. The synergy tip here: pair your aquatic sessions with magnesium supplementation, 300 to 400 milligrams of magnesium glycinate in the evening. Magnesium plays a direct role in over 300 enzymes in the body, and research from the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health found that 48% of Americans over 60 are deficient in it. Adequate magnesium enhances muscle recovery, reduces nighttime leg cramps, which I hear about from nearly every patient over 70, and supports the deep sleep your muscles need to repair. Now, I want to pause here for just a moment and say this directly. If you're finding this information genuinely useful, please hit the like button right now. It takes 1 second, and it tells YouTube to share this with other seniors who need to hear it. And if you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, please do that now. I put out new evidence-based health content for people in their 60s, 70s, and 80s every single week, and I would love to have you as part of this community. Now let's get to number 3, and I promise you, we are just getting to the good part. Number 3 is something I refer to as the invisible workout, and it has one of the most impressive bodies of research supporting it of anything on this list. I'm talking about Tai Chi. And before you click away thinking this isn't for you, I need you to hear one specific statistic that changed how I think about fall prevention forever. Falls are the number one cause of injury-related death in adults over 65 in the United States. 1 in 4 Americans over 65 falls every year. And once a person over 75 experiences a serious fall, their risk of dying within the following 12 months increases by nearly 50%. These numbers are staggering, and they represent something I think about constantly as a physician caring for older adults. Because the tragedy is that most falls are preventable. Research published in the Journal of the American Geriatric Society found that Tai Chi practice performed 3 times per week over a 12-week period reduced fall risk in adults over 70 by a remarkable 47%. A follow-up meta-analysis examining 18 separate studies involving over 3,800 participants confirmed this finding and added something even more compelling. Tai Chi also improved dual-task cognitive performance. That's the brain's ability to do 2 things at once, like walking and having a conversation, by 26%. That's important because dual-task failure is one of the primary reasons older adults fall. The brain can no longer efficiently split its attention between movement and everything else happening around it. Here's why Tai Chi works so powerfully for aging bodies specifically. The slow, deliberate movements of Tai Chi train something called proprioception, your body's internal GPS system that tells your brain where your limbs are in space at every moment. After 65, proprioception naturally deteriorates, which is a significant contributor to balance loss. Tai Chi essentially recalibrates that GPS system through consistent, mindful movement. Additionally, the deep, slow breathing embedded in Tai Chi practice has been shown to activate the parasympathetic nervous system, your body's rest and repair mode, which directly reduces systemic inflammation. Inflammation in older adults is like a slow fire burning through the walls of your house. I worked with a gentleman named Robert, 81 years old, from Scottsdale, Arizona. Robert had fallen twice in the previous year, once in his bathroom, once getting out of his car, and his daughter had started quietly researching assisted living facilities. He came to me frightened and frustrated, feeling like his body was betraying him. I enrolled him in a community Tai Chi class 3 mornings per week. Within 8 weeks, Robert's balance scores on clinical testing had improved by 34%. He has not fallen once in 14 months. His daughter told me recently that he's back to gardening, which he had completely abandoned after his falls. That image of Robert in his garden, that's exactly why I do this work. You can find Tai Chi classes at most senior centers, YMCAs, and community fitness programs. There are also excellent video programs available online and on DVD, specifically for seated and beginner Tai Chi. Start with 20-minute sessions and build gradually. The synergy tip: combine Tai Chi with vitamin D3 supplementation, 2,000 IU daily, with a fatty meal for best absorption. Vitamin D deficiency affects an estimated 70% of adults over 70 and directly impairs neuromuscular function, the communication between your brain and your muscles, which is the very system Tai Chi is training. These two together create a compounding effect on balance and fall prevention that, in my clinical experience, is truly remarkable. Number 2. This is the one I mentioned at the beginning. This is the one that makes my patients stare at me. Are you ready? I'm talking about deliberate breath work and progressive muscle relaxation specifically, a protocol that takes less than 15 minutes a day and has been shown to produce measurable physiological changes in aging bodies that rival those of moderate aerobic exercise. I know what you're thinking. Breathing exercises? That's the big secret. But please stay with me, because the science here is extraordinary, and it is almost completely unknown outside of academic research circles. Here is what happens to your body when you age and become less physically active. Your autonomic nervous system, the system that governs your heart rate, your blood pressure, your digestion, your immune response, begins to lose what researchers call vagal tone. Think of vagal tone like the tension in a rubber band. A healthy rubber band snaps back quickly and holds its shape. A rubber band that's been sitting in a drawer for years becomes stiff, brittle, and sluggish. Low vagal tone in older adults is associated with increased cardiovascular risk, elevated inflammatory markers, poor sleep quality, and accelerated cognitive decline. And one of the most powerful ways to restore vagal tone, completely free, no equipment required, no joint stress whatsoever, is through specific breathing protocols. A landmark study from researchers at Harvard Medical School and the Benson Henry Institute for Mind-Body Medicine found that adults over 65 who practiced a daily 12-minute slow breathing protocol, inhaling for 4 counts, holding for 4 counts, exhaling for 8 counts for 8 weeks, showed a 31% improvement in heart rate variability, which is the gold standard clinical measure of cardiovascular flexibility and vagal tone. Their blood pressure dropped by an average of 9 points, systolic. Their cortisol levels, remember, that destructive stress hormone, fell by 23%, and in follow-up cognitive testing, participants demonstrated measurable improvements in working memory and processing speed. Now add progressive muscle relaxation to this, which involves systematically tensing and releasing each major muscle group from your feet to your face, and you layer in another extraordinary benefit. Research from the University of Rochester Medical Center showed that progressive muscle relaxation performed before sleep in adults aged 65 to 80 improved sleep quality scores by 38% and reduced nighttime awakening by nearly half. And I cannot overstate how critical sleep quality is for the aging body. During deep sleep, your brain clears toxic waste proteins, including amyloid beta, which is associated with Alzheimer's disease through a system called the glymphatic system. Poor sleep in older adults is not just about feeling tired. It is a direct risk factor for dementia. Patricia, 68 years old, from Portland, Oregon, came to me exhausted. She was waking 4 or 5 times a night, her blood pressure was chronically elevated despite medications, and she felt what she described as a constant low-level anxiety that had become her new normal. She was not a candidate for vigorous exercise due to a recent cardiac procedure. I taught her the 4-4-8 breathing protocol and a 10-minute progressive muscle relaxation sequence to perform each evening before bed. Within 3 weeks, she was sleeping through the night. Her cardiologist reduced one of her blood pressure medications at her next appointment. She called my office to tell me she felt, in her words, like herself again for the first time in years. That call is why I practice medicine. The protocol is simple. Once daily, preferably in the morning to start your nervous system off in a calm, high-functioning state, or in the evening to prepare for restorative sleep. Sit comfortably, close your eyes, and breathe in through your nose for a count of 4. Hold gently for 4 counts. Exhale slowly through your mouth for 8 full counts. Repeat for 10 to 12 minutes. Then, working from your feet upward, tense each muscle group firmly for 5 seconds. Then, release completely. Feel the difference between tension and release. This is teaching your nervous system a new baseline. The synergy tip: pair this practice with ashwagandha, a well-studied adaptogenic herb, at a dose of 300 to 600 milligrams of a root extract standardized to withanolides. A 2019 randomized controlled trial published in Medicine found that ashwagandha supplementation reduced cortisol levels by 27.9% and significantly improved sleep quality in chronically stressed adults. Together with your breathwork protocol, this combination is one of the most underutilized tools in geriatric wellness that I know of. And now, number one, the single most powerful thing you can do for your health, longevity, and independence if walking has become difficult. And it is not what you expect. It is social engagement combined with purposeful cognitive challenge. And before you tell me that's not exercise, I need you to understand that the research has fundamentally reframed how we define physical health in older adults. Because the brain and the body are not separate systems. They are one system, and neglecting one destroys the other. A groundbreaking study from Rush University Medical Center in Chicago, the Rush Memory and Aging Project, followed 1,138 adults with an average age of 80 for up to 22 years. The finding that changed geriatric medicine was this: older adults with the highest levels of purposeful social engagement and cognitive stimulation had a 53% lower risk of developing Alzheimer's disease, maintained significantly better physical function, had lower rates of depression, and here is the most stunning part: lived an average of 7.5 years longer than socially isolated, cognitively unstimulated peers with otherwise similar health profiles. 7.5 years. From engagement and purpose. Here is the biology. Your brain consumes approximately 20% of your body's total energy, even at rest. When socially and cognitively engaged, your brain produces higher levels of brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF, which I like to describe as miracle bro for your brain cells. BDNF promotes the growth of new neurons, strengthens existing neural connections, and has been shown to directly counter the neurological effects of aging. It also stimulates the release of dopamine and serotonin, the neurotransmitters that govern motivation, pleasure, and emotional regulation, which in turn reduce the inflammatory cascade that damages aging tissue throughout the entire body. Your brain, when engaged, is essentially sending healing signals to every cell you have. Social isolation, by contrast, and this is something I speak about with great urgency, has been classified by the Surgeon General of the United States as an epidemic affecting over half of older Americans. Chronic loneliness raises cortisol, suppresses immune function, accelerates cardiovascular disease, and in a study published in the journal PLOS Medicine, was found to be as harmful to physical health as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. 15 cigarettes per day. And yet we accept social isolation in our elderly population without nearly the alarm we would feel about any other risk factor of equivalent magnitude. This must change. I want to tell you about Thomas, 77 years old, from rural Tennessee. Thomas lost his wife of 51 years 2 years before he came to see me. He had stopped going to church, stopped visiting neighbors, stopped cooking real meals. His blood pressure was uncontrolled. He had lost 22 pounds of what appeared to be primarily muscle mass. He told me he wasn't sure what the point was anymore. I referred him to a structured volunteer program at his local library, where he began reading aloud to children twice a week. Within 2 months, Thomas had made 3 new friends among the other volunteers, was cooking again, had regained 9 pounds of lean mass, and told me at his next appointment that for the first time since losing his wife, he felt needed. His blood pressure normalized. His inflammatory markers on lab work dropped significantly. I did not change a single one of his medications. Purpose did what pharmaceuticals could not. For practical implementation, the research suggests a minimum of 3 meaningful social interactions per week involving cognitive engagement, not passive television watching, but active participation. This could be a book club, a card game, a volunteer position, a faith community, a class in something you've always wanted to learn, a community garden, or even a regular video call schedule with family members built around a shared activity like cooking the same recipe together from different kitchens. The key components, according to the research, are novelty, connection, and purpose. Your brain must feel that what you are doing matters, and that other human beings are witnesses to your life. The synergy tip: Pair purposeful engagement with omega-3 fatty acid supplementation, 2 grams daily of EPA and DHA combined. Omega-3s are the primary structural component of brain cell membranes and have been shown in multiple studies to enhance BDNF production, reduce neuroinflammation, and slow age-related cognitive decline. They amplify everything that purposeful social engagement is already doing for your brain. Here is what I want to leave you with, and I want you to really hear this, because I mean every word of it. Your age is not your sentence. The fact that walking has become harder does not mean that your best years of health and vitality are behind you. I have watched people in their 80s rebuild strength they thought was gone forever. I have watched people in their 70s reverse blood pressure numbers that 3 medications couldn't budge. I have watched people in their 60s rediscover a quality of life they had quietly, heartbreakingly accepted was no longer possible for them. The human body, even in its 8th and ninth decade of life, retains a profound capacity for adaptation, healing, and renewal if you give it the right inputs. Seated resistance training builds the muscle that protects your joints and keeps you standing. Aquatic exercise restores movement to a body that pain has imprisoned. Tai Chi recalibrates the balance system that keeps you safe on your feet. Breathwork and relaxation heal the nervous system from the inside out. And purposeful social engagement, choosing every single day to remain connected, curious, and engaged with the world around you, may be the single most powerful medicine that exists, and it costs nothing. Independence is not lost all at once. It is lost slowly, quietly, through small daily choices that accumulate over months and years into a very different life than the one you wanted. But it can also be reclaimed the same way, slowly, quietly, through small daily choices that accumulate into a life of strength, dignity, and joy. It is never too late. I have seen it too many times to believe otherwise. If this video helped you today, please subscribe to this channel. Hit that notification bell so you never miss a new video. Because every week, I am here with evidence-based, practical health information designed specifically for you. And leave me a comment right now. Tell me your age. Tell me which of these 5 things you are going to try first. And tell me one thing you are still determined to do more of in your life. I read every comment, every single one, and I will see you in the next video.